I loved the music of the 80s. All the hair metal bands, like Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Poison. I loved all of their blistering fast guitar solos. Even their stupid hair, big hair and makeup. I thought that was all pretty cool for the time. Toward the end of the 80s, it got a little tiresome, and rock music needed a breath of fresh air. It needed a big change. For me, that was when the Seattle grunge movement really came into play. This happened in the early 1990s. There was a lot of good bands that came out around that time. There was Nirvana, who pretty much started it all. There was Soundgarden, Pearl Jam. The guy that I would like to commemorate today was a very much underrated singer, and he was from a band called Alice in Chains. And yes, I did wear the shirt special for the video. But his name was Lane Staley, and this guy could sing his ass off. I mean, he, to me, was the most talented musician of that era. And to this day, I have yet to hear a singer who could do what he did, or who at least had as much originality as he had. He had a certain tone about his voice that was unmistakable, but that's not talent. That's, you're born with that. What Lane did to really make his voice shine was, first off, he had an amazing range from low to high, and he demonstrates that pretty well in a song that he wrote called Love, Hate, Love. That's pretty good, but it's not what sets him apart from everyone else. In fact, I think that Axl Rose and Robert Plant have him beat in the range department. What really made Lane stand out, what he really used as his calling card, was his ability to layer vocal track upon vocal track upon vocal track. He would stack them all in such a way that he would achieve this amazing symphonic quality, this amazing harmony that would cut right to the front of every song. And you could say, well, that's really not original. Freddie Mercury was doing that in Queen years before Lane Staley ever picked up a microphone. And you'd be right, but Freddie Mercury never did it like Lane did it. Lane would use certain keys, he would use certain triads that would just make his voice sound almost kind of scary in a way. Lane had it all going for him. Unfortunately, like a lot of musicians, he had a drug problem, and his drug of choice was heroin. He kept it no secret. The bulk of his lyrics really touch on the issue. His drug use progressed, and Alice in Chains suffered for it. They had to cancel many tours, and despite many attempts at rehab to get cleaned up, Lane just could never really do it. There was a time when he almost did get clean. It looked like sobriety was coming into the picture. However, his fiancée at the time, whom he had also got hooked on heroin, she died from complications of her drug use. And Lane hated himself even more than her family did. After that, he just kind of stopped talking to the media because of all the terrible things that they were saying about him. And he joined up with a crack house and just got high every day for several years. Toward the end of the 90s, Lane was broke. In order to feed his drug habit, he ended up collaborating with guitarist Tom Morello from a band called Rage Against the Machine. And together they covered a song by Pink Floyd for a horror movie called The Faculty. And the song was alright, but Lane was in the poorest of health at the time, and he was extremely emaciated. And it gives me chills to listen to the song, because you can really tell that at this point he's missing all of, or a lot of, if not all of his teeth.
We don't need no education. We don't need no thought control.
And unfortunately, that was the last that the music world ever heard of Lane Staley. In 2002, his accountants got in touch with his mother to let her know that they had not seen any activity on his bank statement for the past 2 weeks. So, accompanied by the police, she broke his front door down of his condo that he was staying in at the time, and she found him laying dead on his couch. He was surrounded by all of his drug paraphernalia, and the TV was still on. It was a really sad ending to his life, and it was reported that his mother asked the police to please remove all the drugs from his condo so that she could be alone with him and say goodbye to his remains. The very last contact that Lane ever had with the media before he died was in the form of an angry voice message left on a journalist's answering machine. And this journalist at the time was writing a book about Alice in Chains, and she was trying repeatedly to get in contact with him, and he would never call her back until I think that he knew that he was going to die. He called her up and shouted on her answering machine. This is a quote from him. He said, "I'm not using drugs to get high like many people think. I know I made a big mistake when I started using this shit. It's a very difficult thing to explain. My liver is not functioning, and I'm throwing up all the time and shitting my pants. The pain is more than you can handle. It is the worst pain in the world. Dope sick hurts the entire body." Now, in closing, I commemorate Lane Staley today because I miss his presence dearly in the music industry, and anybody who was part of that era growing up will turn the radio on today and know exactly what I'm talking about. I think if he were around today, maybe he might make more musicians stop what they're doing and really take a page from his book, preferably from the music chapter, not the whole heroin thing. But just teach them to really take the time to learn their craft before hitting the studio and trying to get famous overnight. I also commemorate Lane Staley because as a musician myself, I know how hard it is to try to sound original, and I believe that Lane Staley achieved this and so much more. I thank you for listening. Thanks for watching. Janice, I really enjoyed your class. Please give me an A. Take care.